Have you visited Fort Knox?
I haven't. People on my staff has. We're going to the treasurer's office. The treasurer has been to Fort Knox. I am happy to say all gold is present and accounted for. The U.S. has the largest pile of gold in the world, over $1 trillion at current market value.
And we're getting more gold from Venezuela, I hear.
We're getting a lot from Venezuela. We're getting gold. These oil sales are going great. It's going back to the Venezuelan people.
What happened to the audit of Fort Knox?
Which one are you talking about?
There was, I think when you first got into office, you and Elon Musk talked about auditing the
gold.
Well,
we wanted to go knock on the door, Fort Knox, very thick door, and to see whether or not we have any gold in there, because we take a look at it. It's a very interesting question, yeah. We played with that. I wonder if they left the gold in Fort Knox, because they steal a lot.
No need to really do that, though?
Well, I don't know. I think it's... I do want to go to Fort Knox sometime. I want to see if the gold is there, which I'm sure it will be.
Well, folks, according to media reports here, media outlets, mainstream media, August 10th, 2026, on August 10th, 2026, U.S. Senator Rand Paul visited the U.S. Bullion Depository at Fort Knox, Kentucky, where he was able to confirm, miraculously, Rand Paul was able to confirm. I'm not sure exactly how he did it. Maybe he measured it all. Maybe he weighed it all. Maybe he could just see it all and sense the presence of it. But Rand Paul has verified 100%, nothing to worry about. All approximately 147 million ounces of gold are there. Paul stated that while the gold is there, the larger issue is inflation and the devalued U.S. dollar. Here to talk about that and many other things is my brother from another mother, the man Bo Polny. This is the first guy that I know of that said that Roe versus Wade would be overturned. I thought he was nuts. It turned out he was correct. I don't say these things out loud. I just think these things. He said, hey, Roe versus Wade will be overturned. I think to myself, probably not. This is the first guy that I know that said gold would hit $4,000 an ounce. I thought to myself, as an active gold buyer, probably not. But it turned out to be correct. Bo Polny, welcome on to the Primetime Show. How are you, sir?
Thank you, Clay. God bless you. And as always, it is a true pleasure to be with you, Clay. So thank you for inviting me back on your channel.
Now, for the increased quality of our listeners, I'm going to minimize how much I talk on today's show so you can present. But before we do that, I want to ask you, what's your thoughts about U.S. Senator Rand Paul confirming that all of the gold is, in fact, at Fort Knox?
Well, again, so opinions, I can give my opinion. What I can give you is actually I'm on an event, a tour that I do, and a gentleman that I'm with, a friend of mine, actually used to work at Fort Knox. And he just recently, he left there, but apparently he says that there's a lot of gold there and most of it supposed to be there. Now, I don't know, like when Rand Paul says all, I don't know what that means, but apparently there is at least, something impressive in terms of that's supposed to be there. That's all I know.
Okay. Now that you've answered the controversial question, back to you, Bo Polny. What is in your stack of stuff?
Well, Clay, we met and, we all got to go back to, the origins here. And, Clay was called out by Prophet Kim Clement. It was a Donald and a Mr. Clark would step forward. No one ever knew who really, the Donald was, and then only to find out it was Donald Trump. And in the same prophecy, Kim Clement prophesied that there would be a Mr. Clark.
This was sacred to God. This is exactly why I need some action from my people.
There is a man by the name of Mr. Clark, and there is also another man by the name of Donald. You are both watching me saying, could it be that God's speaking to me? Yes, he is. The Spirit of God says, hear the word of the prophet to you as a king. I will open that door that you prayed about. And when it comes time for the election, you will be elected.
Whoa. And that was always, the big mystery. And then until one day, Clay stepped forward and we found out that the Mr. Clark was actually Clay Clark. So, and that said, what put us together is, through the years, Clay started over the past, 4 years, and when COVID began, Clay started putting together what was called the Reawaken America Tour. And I got on Clay's show, and I started telling Clay that the entire financial system is a total fraud. And so the point of that being was they create money out of thin air. And so I showed Clay, basically the analogy is that you can't create something from nothing to forever and think it's going to last forever. And so, as Clay brought up, he's talking about gold, precious metals, silver particularly as well too. The financial system is how they did it. When I say did it, they use money to come against everybody. Look what happened with Trump, okay? They filed lawsuits against him. It was lawfare. And the next thing you know, they come up with some ridiculous $700 million fine or whatever. Point I'm trying to make is when I say they, it's the people that create the Federal Reserve, that create the money out of thin air. It all ties back to Nixon when he took us off the gold standard. So we have to understand money. Bible tells us the love of money is the root of all evil. Why did Jesus say that? Well, it's very interesting because he knew, God knows the end from the beginning. And so if you think about that, God knew that they would use the money in the future to buy off politicians, to buy off judges, to buy off anybody and everything to ultimately control the ultimate narrative. And that's why, when you look at Belshazzar's feast, it says, Belshazzar, you have been weighed in the balances, mene tekel upharsin. And it said, that's translation was, Belshazzar, you've been weighed in the balances and found wanting. Your kingdom has come to an end. And that night, Belshazzar died. Darius came in and Persia took over Babylon. Babylon fell in a single night. That's basically what I want to talk about today, Clay, is the end of this ridiculousness where they legally, because they create the laws, are legally allowed to create money out of thin air to infinity. And with that money that they can create out of thin air, they can lend it out to everybody. So now the entire globe is enslaved with a money that was created out of thin air. Anybody and everybody would raise their hand if you ask them, do you have a credit card? Do you have a student loan? Do you have a car payment? Do you have a mortgage? You can just go on and on and on. And all of these monies that were created for one specific reason, out of thin air, to enslave people. And all you had to do, Clay, was get people to believe that it's money.
Now, I want to ask you this real quick, because a lot of people don't understand the correlation, and I want to allow time and space for you to present here today. But in 1971, Richard Nixon moved America off of the gold standard. Can you explain what that means and how that allowed our government to print more money?
Right. So sometimes I get bored. So I get on ChatGPT and I just start asking questions, right? And it's like I know the questions to ask. And at the end of the day, ChatGPT actually ends up agreeing with me. That's so the AI models will end up agreeing with me that yes, they created money out of thin air. So let's just go through. Then I took all of what I was kind of having fun with ChatGPT, and then I said, okay, now let's stick everything that I talked to you and asked you about. Let's put it on a chart. So let's look at this graph right here. This is the graph we're looking at. Okay, at the very bottom there, what you're seeing is from 1930 to present day. Okay, so what happened? JFK, John F. Kennedy, has a warning. What did he do? That speech of April 27, 1961, where he says that there is a secret society, and it's all these things that he said. And in that speech, he says there is no expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, and no secret is revealed. Okay, so that's how they do it, because the devil will hide an evil entity. If he exists, and he does, it will always hide in the shadows. The number one thing of evil is that there is no evil, right? So you always want to hide in the shadows. They'll never answer any questions, okay? That's why when you get like anything from a bank or from the IRS, like ask yourself, where's the signature? No one signed anything, okay? And so they just operate with pieces of paper and letterhead. That's how the system works, okay? So JFK warned that there's an entity out there that they have no expenditure is questioned, meaning they have unlimited money. So what he's saying, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. And next thing you know, 2.5 years later, boom, he's dead, okay? So he reveals something, gone, dead, okay? Then, shortly thereafter, in August 15th, 1971, Nixon took us off the gold standard, okay? And what that means is even if there was a ratio, Clay, that the rule said for every ounce of silver, you can create $100, but you have to have at least a 1% correlation, even 1%, right? Therefore, if you made $1,000, you'd have to have 10 ounces, meaning you'd have to have some correlation. You just couldn't make it out of thin air to infinity. And so what I'm saying here is that when you look at this chart here, at the very bottom there's a green line, and it just keeps going. It's like just keeps chugging along. And by the time you get to 2026, you'll see that green line. It hasn't moved. It's basically flat. Why? Because that's a hypothetical gold standard that should have been existent, provided Nixon never took us off the gold standard. And what does the devil do, Clay? He lies. Okay, so here's what happened. Nixon makes a speech, and you see in yellow right there's a word that's highlighted. It says temporarily. I laugh my head off because I've listened to that speech probably 10 times. And his key word was, we are going off the gold standard temporarily. And why were they going off the gold standard? Because Paris, France, was calling them on the bluff. They started making money, and then because it was attached to gold, France came in and started buying up all America's gold. So France called us on our bluff. So they had to detach gold from the dollar. So Nixon detached gold from the dollar so we wouldn't lose any of our gold reserves. And now this is the wild part. It was supposed to be temporarily. Yeah, that was in 1971. And so we've been off the gold standard since 71. And look at the blue line now. Okay. So now what you're seeing is the blue line starts accelerating into what's called like a hockey stick. It just starts going up and up. And that's why when you watch Gilligan's Island, it was the millionaire and his wife. Okay. It wasn't the billionaire and it wasn't the trillionaire, because there wasn't barely $1 billion and there's definitely no $1 trillion in the 70s. Okay. And now what's happened is, we have moved into the trillions. Congress every day now, when they talk about finance and budget, they're talking about the word T for trillions, which was unheard of in 1970. And so what's happened is, because they've created money out of thin air, and it's not attached to gold, all they can do, and what they can do, Clay, is they can keep creating it to infinity. I want
to interrupt you real quick here, because I don't think even 0.1% of the average American understands that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but could you, back to you, you feel free to have as much runway as you want. Let's make sure people pause and marinate on the idea. You're saying that these individuals, these bankers, can now print money to infinity. Bo, back to you.
Okay, so let me just give some examples. Okay, so Clay, we grew up in the early 80s. We were buying fun cars and things like that, okay? When we went to buy a car, guess what a car cost that Clay and I would buy? You buy a nice Toyota or something, $4,000, maybe super nice one, $8,000, okay? We would buy cars for cash, okay? Why? Because teachers. So look at a teacher. Teacher was then a very respected job. And guess what teachers were able to buy? A house. Teachers were buying homes in the 70s and the 80s. Why? Because the money supply was balanced with income. And so what's happened is you're seeing the money supply exploding exponentially, like I showed you on that chart. So the money's just going crazy. They can make as much as they want. And it's called money expansion. So they give it fancy words, but it's nothing but money out of thin air. So when you sign, perfect example, everybody, we get in the mail, right, Clay? We get a piece of paper in the mail. Hey, sign up for a credit card, right? So you sign up for that credit card, and then like a week later or a month later, you get your credit card in the mail. But you had to sign on the dotted line, and then you mailed it back to the bank, or you did it online. The point is, when they mail you the credit card, listen very closely, everybody. If you got approved for $10,000 and then they mail you a credit card for $10,000, the $10,000 never existed. It was a bookkeeping entry that all the banker did was he created 10,000, attached it to the credit card, mailed it to you, and now you have a credit card with a credit limit of $10,000 of money that never existed before you signed that document. And so this is what happens with mortgages, student loans, car payments. The money never exists. They just, when you sign, they create that money to create the debt. That's why it's called a debt system. It's not a money system, it's a debt, and you're going to want to stick in the word bondage system. And that's why Belshazzar's feast is so important, because at some point, when you have the infinite money to create infinite amounts of money, you can do something very sick. You can start buying politicians, you can start buying governments, you can start buying judges, you can start buying Supreme Court entities, leaders, or judges. Next thing you know, it's the Belshazzar's feast. You, Belshazzar, have been weighing the balances. You've been weighing the balances and found wanting. You're out of balance. When the balance is out to such degree that, look what happened. Right now, Trump is in office, and I love to say this. Trump has been in office for 4 years. They kicked him out. He's come in now. He's there just over a year and a half. And I say to you, Clay, what's changed? Okay, Trump does something awesome. The globalists do a counter. It's always cat and mouse. But Trump, there's no victory in the White House. But the prophecy is pandemonium is about to strike the White House.
The winds of change have come. Changing of the guard is apparent. An economic makeover. And hands who have dug into the coffers and into the treasure chests of deception, their hands taken out, so that my people who conduct their affairs with justice will be blessed, signifying the opening of a door that has been locked for such a time as this. Pandemonium in the White House, in the higher regions, and below the earth, in Italy and in Rome. All of this uncovered but unspoken of. Look to the fall.
But the prophecy is pandemonium is about to strike the White House in a way you've never imagined before, because Trump cannot fix what has been going on for generations, Clay, and all the devil and all the evil ones, the people that created this system, because remember, they created the Federal Reserve overnight, Clay, at Christmas Eve when half the senators were gone. Why, if it was so great, why do they push it through at Christmas Eve when half the senators are gone, and then they get the result that they wanted to? It's always about they're in control, and they're going to ultimately get everything they plan, because who is the prince of the air? You have to understand, Ephesians says we battle not against flesh and blood, but principalities, princes of darkness. So what I'm saying is, as a prelude to everything we're going to talk about, there's an evil regime that runs the world. JFK warned us. And because he did, look what happened to him. Anybody that speaks up against these people, things happen. Right now, we're seeing so much exposure of people, that secret, sick, disgusting stuff that's been going on in Hollywood. So my point is, there's so much evil going on under the scenes that we don't know about, but it's all predicated on unlimited funding, Clay. That's the thing. When you have the unlimited, so I give the example of the money never existed until you signed on the dotted line, and then they create a bookkeeping entry to send you it. And then the greatest lie ever told is that, they actually have money, or the money's real. See, the greatest lie ever told, Clay, is that money is created out of thin air, and they just want you to believe that it's money. All you have to do is get the world to believe.
It's truly remarkable what's happening worldwide, and you're one of the few people that's taken the time to organize your thoughts into a cohesive presentation. So I don't want to eat away a second of time from your presentation, but I do want to point out that gold is at $4,615 an ounce and moving up, up, and up. And again, you're one of the first voices, if not one of the only voices, that has said that gold would hit $4,000 an ounce. And at that time, people thought you were nuts. And now gold is going up, up, and up. Bo, back to you in your presentation, sir.
So, and that's the thing, Clay, of everybody I've met, you are one of the people that really is able to comprehend this conversation, because I present it to other people, and so you really grasp what I'm saying. You follow, you listen to Robert Kiyosaki, you've listened to a lot of financial experts. And so what I'm showing you, my job and what I do is an offshoot of what every financial analyst will tell you, because I'm telling you the truth, but then I come in from a biblical perspective. And this is now where I'm going to bring in the Bible and give you everybody a biblical perspective on how this is going to end. Because no man can stop these people. Clay, why can't no man stop them? My point is, look at Trump. As long as he's been in office, you've met Trump, you've met all of his kids, amazing family. But the point of the matter is, the world, there's no victory that we can say, wow, we've entered the greatest time in human history. Trump stated we're stepping into the golden age. I still don't see it. Okay. My point is, what's the golden age? It's a system of honest money. Okay. So if you reattach gold to the dollar, or not to the dollar, to a new monetary system, because it cannot be to the dollar. Okay. Because the dollar is attached to what's called a federal, not federal reserve. There are no reserve system, or note means it's paper. Okay. So it's money that burns in a fire. Okay.
Real quick,
so
I just want to point this out. What you just said, again, we can watch it in slow motion. You just said, the Federal Reserve isn't federal. There is no reserve. And the paper they issue is called a note. Bo, please break that down one more time, then back to you. Because again, I know this, right? We've read The Creature from Jekyll Island. You've researched it. I researched it. But I think most people, when they go to the bank, they think, wow, Federal Reserve note means that the money is in some kind of reserve by the federal. It's not. The Federal Reserve is not federal, and there is no reserve. Bo, back to you.
When 9/11 happened, we woke up in the morning, like a day or two later, and they come out with a book that's this thick, Clay, called the Patriot Act. So they wrote it, overnight? And now that we study it, we've looked at it, there's nothing patriotic about it, okay? So all you have to do is give something a fancy name. I'm going to repeat that. All you got to do is give a lie a fancy name.
Right.
So you call it federal, okay? It's not federal because when you study the globalists and the banking system, they're actually bankers out of London, okay? So the federal is actually bankers out of London. Let that sink in, okay? And then reserve, there are no reserves. Because the moment you sign the note, you're creating the money, okay? So there are no reserves, but hey, let's throw that name in there just to make it sound good. And then note is simply a definition of its paper. And paper burns in a fire. So I hope that's the simplest example I can give you. But all you have to do in everything, Clay, is give it a fancy name.
Give it a fancy name. Now, Bo, I refer to you as a beautiful man, as a great American, as a former chiropractor turned entrepreneur. Those are all fancy names. But you are a guy who just does research what is happening in the world. With the final, let's call it 10 minutes we have, I really want to give you an opportunity to present whatever's on your heart. Because, again, most people listening to this show have never heard this information anywhere else. So, Bo, back to you.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of this. And so, everybody, please pay attention. Okay, I'm going to try to go some things here quickly. We need an act of God, okay? Nothing is going to stop these people from what they're doing, okay? Why? Because they have unlimited money, okay? Like you think Trump's got money? No, these people have unlimited money. So we need an act of God. We look into our heavens. And in our heavens, Luke tells us there will be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars, okay? On September 23rd, everybody please take notes. September 23rd, 2017, a sign appeared in the heaven, and it was Revelation 12. Revelation 12 appeared in the heavens, and it was a woman that's about to give birth. Now, what does that mean? What the Lord revealed to me, since I only have 10 minutes, the woman is America. What's implanted in her is a seed. The seed, which was created at conception. Conception occurred in 1776. You want something fun, Clay? Take out a calculator and divide 1776 divided by 2. Guess what you get? 888. You got to ask yourself, how the heck does that happen? Okay. My point is 1776 is actually a divine appointment where the seed, and what's the seed? The name of Jesus Christ was planted or conceived in America. So Jesus Christ was planted or conceived in America in 1776. But the problem is, it's just a conception. And so you've got to go through 250 years. So we've gone through, there's the mathematics on this. I basically put into a book, which I don't have time to go through, but they're in this book right here called The Power of Seven. But this explains how you actually count from the birth of Jesus to 2026 right now. It's mathematics that you can use to actually calculate what God's about to do. So Revelation 12 is about to give birth, but man, hey, 2017, nothing's happened, right? Clay, when you understand this is numerics, okay? It's not numerology. It's just women give birth in the 9th month. This September, Clay, is 9 years or 9 months since Revelation 12 occurred in our heavens. So what's about to happen is Revelation 12 is about to give birth in September, which is going to shake the heck out of this entire globe. Now you reference Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade, now this was cool because Haggai 1 gives the date that Roe v. Wade will be overturned. It was on the 24th day of the 6th month of the 2nd year. So Roe v. Wade foretold 2,500 years ago the day Roe v. Wade would be overturned. And on that day, 7 planets aligned. Now, why I say that is because Leviticus says, thou shalt consecrate the 50, and proclaim, everybody listen, liberty throughout the land. Okay, so please understand, everybody, from Roe v. Wade being overturned, 50 months ends this Monday, or actually tomorrow, June 24, 2026. We step into tomorrow into September 24th. From August 24th to September 24th, we are stepping into the greatest time in history where God's about to move and do something. And I want to then read the scripture of Haggai, because remember, Haggai 1, Clay, foretold the day Roe v. Wade will be overturned. Haggai 2 does something super cool. Haggai 2 says, I, God, will once again shake the heavens and the earth, the sea and the dry land. I will shake all nations, and I will fill this house with glory. So the glory is about to hit the earth, and that's going to birth the latter temple. And then we continue in verse 8. It says, the silver is mine, the gold is mine. Clay, why do you want to be holding gold and silver? Because Haggai 2 is about to be fulfilled. It says, the glory of the latter house will be greater than the former, and in this place I will give you peace. This is the part you're going to like. In section 3, it says, I, God, will once again shake the heavens and the earth, and I will overthrow the throne of kingdoms. I will destroy the strength of kingdoms. I will overthrow the chariots and those that ride them, and I will give you a signet ring. This is what happened at Belshazzar. When God showed up, God overthrew the kingdom of Babylon. And this is the crazy part, Clay. Haggai 2, please research this. It finishes and it states, and I will do this on what day? September 24. So it says in there, on the 24th day of the 9th month. This is scripture that's written. And so let me say this. If 2026, Clay, is a turning point, okay? So let me show you a little bit of charts, that I know you like to see the math. You like to see the physical of what I'm showing you. So forget about my opinion. Let's look at the physics of this. If God's about to intervene, okay, he's got to flip the financial scales. So what does that mean? It means the dollar's got to plunge, go down, and gold, silver, Bitcoin, XRP all have to go up because they're opposite instruments of the dollar, okay? So if the dollar's going up, I'm going down, Bitcoin, silver, and gold are going up. They're opposite. And what I'm trying to show you here is if it's going to turn, Clay, if there was a date that we should see a turn in the year 2026. What's halfway through the year? It's July. And when does the season turn? Because remember, Clay, God is a God of time and seasons. Okay, so God's a God of time and he's a God of seasons. So if God's going to move, he's going to work at a certain time point and certain seasons. The middle where you turn from spring into summer is the end of June, okay? So if there was a point that the dollar should turn around and start collapsing, it would be at the very end of June. If there's a point that gold and silver should turn up, it should be at the very end of June where the turning point is, and then the acceleration begins July into August. So I'm going to show you this because this is not even opinion. This is the real deal. So this is the dollar, which I just made this for a presentation I did on stage yesterday. The dollar topped on June 24th. It double topped in July, and it's on a collapse path straight down. When God intervenes, this dollar is going to, let me just say the one word, plunge, plunge, plunge. Now, if this is true, gold should be doing the opposite. So here's gold. Look what gold did on June 23rd, a day before the gold bottomed at the end of spring and as summer began. So, and then what's happening right now in the green section, look at, this is the turning window as we're July into September. Gold is accelerating vertical. Here's the big vision of it right here. Gold is accelerating vertical. Look at silver. Silver is accelerating vertical. You can really see it in Bitcoin. Bitcoin's really beginning to rock. It's accelerating vertical. And you want to see acceleration? Look at XRP. That's nuts. 3 trading days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, just straight vertical. So what's about to happen, Clay, is God's about to intervene. He's about to cause the US dollar to plunge. And I saw this is, something I've been looking and waiting for a long time. But God finally revealed it to me. It happens in the year 2026 because it ties in with a Kim Clement prophecy about a birth that's about to happen. And Kim Clement had a prophecy, and his prophecy he had several prophecies, one of which was a very strange thing will happen in September, moving into the fall, okay? Fall of kings, fall of princes. And this is another one that he said, in the summer, you will have the 2 E's, earthquakes and eruptions. Clay, anybody can go check the internet right now and watch the news. There is nothing but 5.0, 6.0, 7.0 earthquakes popping off all across summer right now. And the only thing missing, Clay, is a volcanic eruption, which would be the second E. The eruption is what rips the roof off of silver's 121. Silver explodes. Gold explodes vertical. Bitcoin, XRP explode. They've only made the turn so far, and then the dollar plunges. And all of this is, Clay, this is a setup for September, and it's about to go down. This is a 30-second clip of specifically what Kim Clement had prophesied. Kim Clement said is going to happen in September. Then you take it from here. Here's Kim Clement about remember I said Haggai 2 said on the 24th day of the 9th month. And then listen to what Kim is saying, because Haggai 2 is giving the date of, now it said happen on September 24th. I don't know. But Haggai 2 says on the 24th day of the 9th month of the second year. This is the second year of Trump's presidency. Listen to the prophecy.
But this is for you, says the Lord. The tide is turning for you. A very strange thing shall happen in September. Moving into the fall where there shall be a great fall. Fall of the enemies, fall of kings, fall of princes. Watch and see, for God says beginning in September, I will turn everything around, and my people shall see an intervention of a kind that they have never seen before.
Now, Bo, I just want to get your thoughts on this because most people don't follow XRP the way you do. Could you clarify what has been happening with XRP recently for anybody out there that does not know?
Okay, so XRP is on the blockchain. Okay, so people are like, oh, blockchain, no cryptocurrencies, that's not in the Bible. Remember, God is a God of, he knows he knows the end from the beginning. Okay, and so let me ask everybody. If you go to the bank right now and you send a wire because you want to buy a car, you want to buy a house, if the Federal Reserve System, which we just explained, not federal, no reserves, when this thing gets exposed for being a fraud that it is, okay, which is about to happen because it's going to cause the plunge, when this event goes down, what ends up happening is that there's going to be no way using the federal, no one's going to trust that system anymore because it's just going to be like a suddenly event. No one's going to trust it, okay? And God said a very strange thing's going to happen in September. Something's about to go down here, okay? So when no one's going to trust the Federal Reserve wire, the Fed wire system, I might want to send Clay $100, $1 million. My point is, it doesn't matter. People will still need to transact at distance, okay? So when you run on the ledger, it could be on your phone. There's no middleman in this, okay? So like if I send Clay a wire, for example, a $1 or $1 million, I would have to go through the Federal Reserve System. They're going to ask me what it's for, what it's all about, and they're going to have to approve it, okay? So the Fed sits in the middle between Clay and I. Okay, when you have XRP or any other coin, but XRP is very quick, very fast. They're going to use it. XRP is I can have it on my phone or my computer, and I can shoot it over to Clay's phone or computer in a fraction of a second, and he will get it in his computer. And now Clay will have the monetary instrument of whether a dollar worth of value, $1 million worth of value in a fraction of a second with no middleman. Now, here's the point about XRP, which I want to be very specific about. I've always had a very bad, I knew about XRP years ago when it had 3 zeros or 2 zeros in front of it. And I've had a bunch of it. My point of the matter is, I've always had a bad taste in my mouth about XRP because when you go to the World Economic Forum, the only coin that they have on there is XRP, okay? So it's called Ripple. That's the institution, but the coin they use is XRP. So the globalists in the future are going to use XRP for what's in the Bible as the mark of the beast system, okay? But here's the thing. When God intervenes, and when I go back to Haggai 2, and in this place, I will give you peace. So when I will once again shake the heavens and the earth, the sea and the dry land, God's going to intervene, and he's going to blow up the plans of the bankers' control system that you research beyond measure, Clay. So everything you've researched that they're trying to bring on as a one beast control system blows up in their face for 7 years. And we step into the greatest time in human history. And when you read furthermore into scripture, the first diagnosed case of COVID came out diagnosed the 31st of December, 2019. Kim Clement said, if we have time to play the video, I can, otherwise I'll tell you the prophecy. It said, you, America, have been besieged by haters of America for 7 years. If you run 7 years from the first diagnosed case of COVID, it ends this December 31, 2026. And I will take you out of your besiegement you've been in for 7 years, and I will bless you for 7 years.
For many that have cried out and said, God will destroy this nation. The Spirit says, may I remind you, the covenant that I made with this nation is immutable, is unchangeable, that I created and spoke over this nation to feed the world, to heal the earth. God says, yes, judgment will come, but it shall not come at this time in the fashion that they have spoken. They have said, there shall be a crash and America shall be crippled. God said, not at this time, not at this time, for I have raised you up for a season. You have been besieged for 7 years, America. You have been surrounded by your internal enemies. Haters of America have stood up, and I will take the wealth of the wicked and for a season transfer it into the hands of the righteous. I will bring an amount of restoration to this nation, and they shall be taken out of their siege that you've been in for 7 years. And then the songs will come from all over this nation, from young people who deserve to sing my song.
So the golden age her calculations begins the 1st of January 2026, and that's scripture per when all of this happened, because they made a covenant for 7 years with evil. And so that's about to come to an end. So starting January onwards, people will be using XRP because no one's going to trust the Fed anymore, because the Fed was tied in and how they built Babylon, which is the Daniel 2 prophecy. And Daniel 2 says in Daniel 2 verse 34, while we are watching, a stone, the name of Jesus, carved up by no human hand, I mean, God does this, destroys Babylon. So right now they're trying to use XRP to continue to build Babylon and bring on a one world system. When God intervenes, and we're going to watch things go down this September, late September onwards, we've seen silver, XRP, everything begin to accelerate. We're going to have a huge explosion. And then in late September, October, Clay, we're going to have a massive financial plunge. So God showed me the charts. We're going to have a huge plunge, and then Trump is going to next year reinstate a gold standard. But XRP will be used next year onwards by people who want to transact and want to have nothing to do with a Fed wire system. So gold and silver will be instruments of wealth. Banks will be accepting it into their bank vaults like they used to do years ago. A new monetary system is going to rise, and XRP will be used for transactions at distance.
Bo, I appreciate you turning down your lucrative career you could have had as a male model. I appreciate you rejecting that, the fame and fortune that would have came with that, and choosing to become a chiropractor, an entrepreneur, and then a guy who's really analyzed current events to break down timelines and what you perceive is happening. I really do appreciate your time and your energy. If our listeners want to follow you online or find your research, where's the best website or best social media place where our listeners can go to? Then I'll add it to the show notes.
Website is gold2020forecast.com, or you can put my name, Bo, and then Polny on YouTube, and you'll see all my videos come up. And as Clay said, I'll wrap it up here. If you don't have gold, if you don't have silver, okay, you truly don't understand finance, because whenever there's financial calamity, the entire globe, listen closely, everybody, runs to the asset class that's been money for 4,000 or 5,000 years. That's about to happen. And those who have listened to Clay, listened to myself, are going to be so blessed financially, you don't even understand what is coming. So thank you, Clay.
Bo, you're a beautiful man. Thank you so much for your time, sir. We'll talk to you soon.
Beverly Hills Precious Metals Exchange is a client-focused firm devoted to assisting our clients with precious metals. Our clients range from first-time to serious coin collectors and investors seeking to add precious metals to their investment portfolios. We are not interested in volatile investments, leveraged products, and intangible assets. With rising inflation and the devaluing of the dollar hurting middle-class families, investing in gold and silver ensures protection for your hard-earned money. Save the value of your money today by investing in gold and silver at Beverly Hills Precious Metals.